Srimad, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada ki, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Srimad Bhagavatam Gantharaj ki. Oh, glory is the assembled devotees. Oh, glory is the assembled devotees. Oh, glory is the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga Guru Premananda Hari Hari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm filling in for Savana Mataji, whose maternal duties prevent her from studying the Srimad Bhagavatam and giving class at this point in time. So, Deva Hutti Ruvacha Sarvam Tad Bhagavan Mayam Upavaha Pratishrutam Atapi Ma Prapanaya Abhayam Datumar-hasi Devahutiruvacha Sarvam Tad Bhagavan Mayam Upava Pratishrutam Atapi Ma Prapanaya Abhayam Datumar-hasi Mataji's. Devahuti, Uvacha, Sit, Sarvam, O, Tat, that, Bhagavan, your Lordship, Mayam, for me, Upovaha, has been fulfilled, Pratishrutam, promised, Atta api, yet, me, unto me, prapanayai, unto one who has surrendered, abhayam, fearlessness, datum, to give, arhasi, you deserve. Translation, Sri Devahuti said, my Lord, you have fulfilled all the promises you gave me. Yet because I am your surrendered soul, you should give me fearlessness too. Purport. Devahuti requested her husband to grant her something without fear. As a wife, she was a fully surrendered soul to her husband, and it is the responsibility of the husband to give his wife fearlessness. How one awards fearlessness to his subordinate is mentioned in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. One who cannot get free from the clutches of death is dependent, and you should not become a spiritual master, nor a husband, nor a kinsman, nor a father, nor a mother, etc. It is the duty of the superior to give fearlessness to the subordinate. To take charge of someone, therefore, either as a father, mother, spiritual master, relative, or husband, one must accept the responsibility to give his ward freedom from the fearful situation of material existence. Material existence is always fearful and full of anxiety. Devahuti is saying, you have given me all sorts of material comforts by your yogic power, and since you are now prepared to go away, you must give me your last award so that I may get free from this material, conditional life. Om Agyanatimirandasya Nanjana Salakaya Chaksu Unmilitam Jaina Tasmai Shri Guravai Namaha Durga Me Patimendasya Skalapate Gatimahu Swakripa-yustutanina shandasantuvalambanam. So we're continuing with the story of Kadama, Muni and Devahuti. It was very nicely summarized in the last few days by the devotees that were giving class, but the essence of this sloka is the word fearlessness, because it seems to come up in every second line of the purport by Srila Prabhupada. It must have been mentioned at least 6 times. So that definition, Srila Prabhupada elaborate what fearlessness really is. And of course it's fearlessness from the clutches of being clutches of material energy and being liberated at the time of death. So there is always a process to attain this. So normally in the society that we live in today, fearfulness is one of the aspects of the material energy. This is how social media and people talk about these things all the time, how it's not safe to be on the streets, how it's not safe to have your money in the bank, how we have to be insured against so many different things in case so many accidents happen, so many insurances actually. So when I was very young, I had my background was a Lithuanian, so that is a pretty auspicious background in the sense that there are so many Sanskrit words in the Lithuanian language because it's coming back from so many thousands of years when the Vedic civilization actually went to that place and established civilization. So one word I always heard when I was a young boy was bayam, fearful of everything. So every day there'd be something. I am afraid. You be afraid. Bayam was the fear. So there's all the different sort of adjectives and conjunctions there. So earthquake is coming. Or you're going on a plane ride, the plane will crash. Or Bayam it's raining, we'll all get flooded out. So that sort of inherent sort of fearfulness was sort of ingrained, or tried to be ingrained. Of course, sometimes you reject that. And we used to put na in front of it, don't be afraid, So in the Sanskrit language, bayam means fear, and abhayam means fearlessness. And there's a really nice prayer, Lord Nrsimhadev speaks about this. I've just got it written down. I think you might have heard it before. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya Namaste Jasi Avibhava Vajranakra Vajadamstra Karmashayan Randaya Tamo Grasa Om Swaha Abhayam Atmani Bhuyasta Om Shrum. I offer my respectful obeisance to Lord Nrsimhadev, the source of all power, and my Lord who possesses nails and teeth just like thunderbolts. Kindly vanquish our demon-like desires for fruitive activities in the material world. Please appear in our hearts and drive away our ignorance so that by your mercy we may become fearless in the struggle for existence in this material world. So that sums it up pretty well. So we are struggling in this material existence until we become fearless. So for the devotees, really, when they take shelter of Krishna, there's no need to be afraid of anything. Krishna gives protection. So just to unwrap this a little bit, this is why we have the Bhagavad Gita, because the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna, in the first chapter, is expressing remorse. He's not fearful that he is going to be killed in the battlefield, that a Kshatriya accepts that, but he's fearful that all his relatives are going to be destroyed and the society is going to be turned upside down, that there are going to be so many widows left, and how is it going to recover? So that was his expression to Krishna, that I really don't want to fight this battle. So in fact, I can't even hold on to this bow. My hands are quivering, the bow is falling from my grasp, and I'm surrendering unto you, asking you what should be done. So then it really begins where Krishna gives instruction to Arjuna and to everybody else in these ambrosial words in chapter 2, and it really starts to begin with this famous sloka that we know, Dehino Shmin Yata Dehe Kumaramyo Varam Jara Tata Dehantara Prapti Diras Tatra Na Muyate, that Dehino Shmin, that the soul is passing from youthfulness to Komaram, Yovanam, birth, youthfulness, old age, and finally death. And then at the time of death, the soul goes from one body to another, and this is always going on. So death means that you get another body, that you're eternal. So a wise man does not worry about these things, birth and death. So then he explains that the soul, that soul that is going from one body to another, he says, know that which pervades the entire body is indestructible. No one is able to destroy the imperishable soul. And then there's those beautiful slokas that he says that the soul that can't be withered by the wind. Any other ones, you remember? Burnt by fire. Yeah, or saturated. I was thinking moistened by water, or like saturated by water, and you get dissolved. You know, it can't be dissolved in water, right? Or acid, hydrochloric acid dissolves the body, but not the soul. So all these, so the soul's eternal, and then he goes to say in chapter 2. In text 20 of chapter 2, so we're going from 1789-20. Na jayate mriyate bhakara. So it's like to remember this one. Anyone know this one? No, huh? You all right? Let's start again. Okay, a bit of a distraction here. Go on. Nahanyate hanyamane sarire. That is the last line, is very, very poetic line. For the soul, nor having once been, he is unborn, ever existing, is eternal, undying, primeval. That means is before, primeval means is way before whenever the beginning was. So he is unborn, ever existing, eternal, undying, and he is not slain when the body is slain. Right? So Krishna, first of all, gives us this assurance that the soul is eternal, right? And we are not this soul. We are not these bodies, we are the soul, right? And then, of course, there is a whole elaboration throughout the Bhagavad Gita, what the soul does in the body, what the body does during the course of activities. So we have Karma Yoga and Krishna consciousness. We have Shankya Yoga. We have knowledge of the Absolute, which is Bhakti. And then we have the three modes of material nature, the most confidential knowledge. So we have a lot of descriptions about the different duties in life. And of course in that there is the Varna ashrams, so all the different Varnas and the ashrams are described. But at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, right towards the end, there is this one key sloka where Krishna explains Sarva Dhamma Pritya Gya Mamikam Saranam Raja Aham Tam Sarva Papabhyo Namokshasyami Masucha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. So this one, abandon all variety, is Sarva Dharma. So you can say religion, or you can say different occupational duties. One's prescribed different occupational duties. So he's saying, abandon this and just surrender to me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. So this is a real sort of key sloka which hits you hard, right? Abandon all varieties of religion. But Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, he's just gone through all these. He's gone through the process of Karma Yoga and Krishna consciousness, where you work for Krishna, and then you Sankhya Yoga is the study, then there's the meditation where you meditate on the Supreme Absolute, or you meditate on the soul within, or you meditate on the impersonal Brahman, and there's all these different activities which you can perform. And then, of course, there's the sort of Shraddha, the oblations to the forefathers, all the obligations that you have in your Varnas as a Kshatriya, Sudra, Vaishya, whatever they are, and your different spiritual ashrams. So he said, just abandon all varieties of religion. So it just surrender unto me. So in fact, he's emphasizing that Bhakti Yoga is the process that washes it all away. So when you do that, what happens? I will deliver you from all sinful reactions. What is sinful reactions? It's being involved in all the being involved in the modes of material nature, whether you're in the mode of goodness, the passion of ignorance, there is an action or a reaction. And even if you're in the mode of goodness, if you're not offering the results of your activities to Krishna, then there's a reaction. And the fact that it's not being offered to Krishna means that there's some type of sin or reaction that occurs. So yesterday, actually, it was a very interesting day. As you know, we have very many people that come past. So there was one lady that come past regularly. She's been, comes every 6 months or so. She loves it here, and she brought her daughter, and she had lunch, and then she come right back into the shop going back. I was with Sadhbhuj and Hari Bhakti, and she said, what are you going to buy in the shop? She wanted to buy something. She says, I'm buying some pants to travel, for travelling. Where are you going? She said, Uluru. Right, we know that. Ayers Rock. Right, I'm going to Uluru. So yoga pants don't do it in hot weather. I don't need some nice loose pants. And Hari Bhakti says, why are you going to Uluru? Because she told us that she'd already been to Uluru 3 or 4 times. Why are you going back then? She says, I want fearlessness. I want to become fearless. So I want to make that journey. It's a 12-hour journey to go to Uluru, and then it's a challenge for me for fearlessness. And I thought, hey, that's pretty good, So like we have this type of, different types of fearlessness. So it's no good to sort of be fearful all the time. But ultimately, what is the real fearlessness? Because you go and do these activities, but you're still implicated. There is an attachment. You're attached to that activity, and you're still bound by the modes of material nature. So it's not really going to work in the ultimate sense, because if you don't become detached from all the different things, that fearlessness will probably help you become more attached to your body more than anything, and just fame, adoration, distinction, that will all go on. But ultimately, one has to surrender all of that and come to that platform where one understands, like Krishna is saying, I'm not this body, I'm spirit, soul, and I'm a part of this big process, which is the connection with Krishna. That's what it's all about. So she's here. It's very nice. She's coming to Krishna, and she's making advancement. So, but people do these things. So I was thinking, so there's different categories of fearlessness, right? Or fearfulness also. So many different varieties, but I was thinking within the Varnas, it'd be nice to actually understand maybe, what different types of fears are. So I wrote down a few things. So there's the Brahmins, there's the Kshatriyas, and there's the Vaishyas and the Sudras. So each one has a different type of fear. Is that right? So, like the Brahmanas, what would the Brahmana fear the most? Well, I wrote down that his spiritual practices, his spiritual values are compromised, because the Brahmana is his purpose is to actually become priestly, developed all the good qualities. Socham, how's that sloka again? Samadhamma tapasocham shanti rajavacha. So all these good qualities, and they help him advance on his path to liberation. So anything that's a stumbling block on his path to liberation could be really, really fearful. So he's very careful who he associates with, and what his consciousness, that he stays on cleanliness, that he stays clean, like he only eats things with his right hand, and there's so many rules and regulations. So that's the fearfulness for the Brahmana, that he's going to fall off his Brahminical platform. Okay? And the Kshatriya, what is the biggest fear for the Kshatriya? Because the Kshatriya is not worried about his body, because ultimately if you fight, you're going to lose the fight sooner or later, so, Yes, dishonour. So dishonour is worse than death for a Kshatriya. It's mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Sorry? Being cursed by a Brahmin. That is also there, because that's why the Kshatriyas have to honour the Brahmanas and be very careful. If they offend the Brahmanas, then their whole their whole life can be just have wreaked into havoc. So that's happened so many different times. So there's that connection there there's a connection between everybody. So the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, mainly it's the dishonour. So Krishna's explaining to Arjuna, he said, yes, okay, you don't want to fight because that's very noble, that you don't want to kill all your relatives and you don't want all this to happen, and it is as it is, but they're all going to laugh at you from the other side. They're going to say, they're not going to understand your finer points. They're going to taunt you and tease you, saying, oh, you're a coward, you chickened out, and, I'll just go into the forest and hide, and you'll be a laughing stock. And for a Kshatriya, dishonour is worse than death. So Krishna explains that to Arjuna, just from that material standpoint. And also there's that parallel line where you're a devotee, and as a devotee, it is your duty to actually uphold the religious principles as well. So then we have the Vaishyas. So what would be the greatest fear for a Vaishya? Yes, I'd say that would be the greatest fear, right? There'd be nothing worse, than a Vaishya to be impoverished. And we can see different races are like that. They're very, very sort of, like astute how they spent the wealth. But a good Vaishya, Krishna-conscious Vaishya, is always like that. Prabhupada says, for you, I make no money. So he glorifies the Vaishyas to a certain degree because he was a Vaishya as well. But as a Vaishya, he overwhelmingly gave so much in charity to the Brahmins and to the devotees. So that also is the good quality of the Vaishya, that the Vaishya actually earns and then he gives a portion of his wealth to Krishna, and that's what we call Karma Yoga and Krishna consciousness. This is how a Vaishya becomes Krishna conscious. So the Sudras. So what is the fear for the Sudra? Yeah, that they're not protected by the other Varnas. So wherever, they're working, Sudras working for the Vaishyas, or they're working for the Kshatriyas or the Brahmanas, they're upheld by these, and if they lose that position, then there is no status for them. So there's always that fear. And so they're provided for by the other three categories. So all of that is there in the material world. And Srila Prabhupada talks about this word called pavarga. Have you ever heard of that word? Pavarga. There's pavarga and apavarga. So apavarga means liberation from all these works that we perform. And pavarga is working in this material world. This broken up into 5 syllables. This was another Lithuanian word that I was brought up with all the time. Pavarga. I'm so tired of work, it is so hard. So it's 5 syllables. This is described in Nectar of Devotion, and also I think in Bhagavad Gita there's pa, fa, P-H-A, ba, B-H-A, and ma. So that is pavarga, So the word pa means struggle for existence, that you're struggling so hard to actually make it all happen in this material life. And of course we know we've got the Adi Baltics and the Adi Davics and the Adi Atmics. We've got our own mind, we've got the other living entities who are sort of pushing at you all the time. And then there's the Adi Davic. There's so many Adi Davics going on, it's crazy at the moment. Who's heard of a cyclone bomb before? Has anyone heard of a cyclone bomb? We're in the middle of a cyclone bomb, which is all this sort of belt of weather that's just casting this freezing cold wind, and we're just getting a tiny bit of it. Sydney and all these other people are just, you don't want to be there. Planes can't land there. And then I just looked, and in Europe they're having a heat wave. right? In China, there's a record flood, right? Adi Daviks, they're really, it's going crazy. So we got the Adhyatmic, Adi Baltic. So we've got that. So we're struggling with that. So PHA, that's the second one. So we've got Pa and we've got Fa. So we're struggling very hard. And we're struggling so hard that Pa means Fena. We are foaming at the mouth. So just like you see a donkey or a horse, you know, they're working so hard and they go, and all this foam comes out of their mouth. In fact, I used to share a factory with this guy who used to clean cars, and he always used to go like that, you know, like that, working so hard, like foaming at the mouth, trying to get, you know, come on top of that material existence. And so when you do that, there's a certain set of conditions that you have. So BA, that's the third syllable, ba, bondage. You're bound up by all the things that you have to do. You have to get up early in the morning, and you have to work hard. You have to pay your taxes. You've got all your different, you know, sort of duties and things that so you're bound up by all this energy, and then according to the state of your consciousness, goodness, passion, and ignorance, usually because you're foaming at the mouth, you're struggling for existence, you'll have to embrace that mode of passion, and sometimes the mode of ignorance to get to that mode of passion. It's always rotating there, and you're working so hard, you're bound up, and then as you get older, the fourth one comes in, BHA. It's a fearfulness. You realise, I'm not going to get there. This is like a lot of us in the early days as devotees, we were living in little communities, and everybody had their prashnas done, you know, their astrology, and everyone was going to become a millionaire at the age of 40. You know, right? Did you get that too? By the age of 40, I'm going to be a millionaire, right? So, you know, we sort of got to 40, we got to 50. And then you sort of come to that realization that I'm not going to make it, you know. For a devotee, it's okay, because that's not the goal. But for the materialist, that's where you're going to, because you need that sort of level where I can be comfortable when I'm sort of as I'm going older in my life, I can sort of got all the comforts that I need in life. Otherwise, you become fearful, what's going to happen to me? And the fifth one is death. You become afraid of death, that you know, it's coming closer and closer and closer, and it's an unknown factor, and everything I've struggled for in this very life is going to be taken away from me. So that's pavarga, the struggle for existence in the material world. Of course, the opposite is apavarga, which means that we become liberated from the clutches of Maya. So that happens when at the time of death we think of Krishna. Like in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it says, Antikale Chamameva Smaranam Mukta Kalevaram Yat Praiti Samadbhavan Yati Nashtatra Samsaya. So by remembering me alone, one attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. So Krishna gives us that assurance that while we are existing in this material world, we have all the Adhyatmics, Adhybaltics, Adhydevics, but if we flip them over and surrender all of our actions to Krishna, then at the time of death, we will attain that platform where we become liberated souls, and we liberate from this pavarga and apavarga and all this that is going on. So this is what Devahuti is asking of Kadama Muni here. Please give me that fearfulness where I can escape the clutches of material existence. And for a lady here, as was discussed, that later on is giving her a son, so the son can look after the parent through the process, the natural process. So, so this is a transition. So we've got here, so to transition we have to take shelter of Krishna. So somehow or other we've come across this. We're one of the very fortunate ones. If we didn't have Krishna, then there's the material energy. It doesn't matter if we understand to some degree that we're not this body, still, where do we go from there? You need a process. And there are so many different processes that people espouse, the different yogic lifestyles, but none of them are relevant in this age, because in this age, it's the Shravanam Kirtanam, it's the Kirtan, it's the chanting of the Lord's name. So you may do Kriya Yoga or all the different other yogas that are there, try and elevate yourself and meditate. There's a lot of meditation going on by the river and whatever. But this is actually just another process. It's another type of religion that you've accepted, and ultimately it is still bound up because it's not the right process. So how lucky are we that we've come to this process of bhakti through the auspices of the spiritual master. And so the dying factor is it's just a part of our existence. I remember Kadamba Kanda Maharaj once, when he made that statement that, you know, I have a terminal disease, so I'm just preparing for my next service. So basically that's what it is. It's just, you know, we're going from this body, we're transitioning, we're preparing for our next service. So we're pretty sober about all these things. And because we're in the society of devotees, we see that we get so much help, and it really helps us to transition onto that higher platform. So we are so lucky that we have Krishna to give this to us through the Bhagavad Gita. And the takeaway is, for me, that Krishna only comes once in a day, Lord Brahma. So here we are. In this Manu, this 9th Manu, in the 28th cycle, the Manu has 72 cycles. So Krishna's not coming in any of those cycles, Manu. He's not actually coming in any other Manus. There's 14 Manus, right? So they're going to be talking about Krishna who came 5,000 years ago for the rest of the duration of the day of Lord Brahma. And we can still go to these places where Krishna was, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Incarnation of Krishna, explained devotional service. So we're just so close. So we are very, very fortunate. So I don't know, it's like an accident, or we've been waiting for this. So whatever it is, however we're here, it's by our good fortune that we should hold on to it and stick with it, and just explain, or our business is to explain our good fortune to everybody else and give it to everybody else, because this is the most fortunate thing, because this is the real fearlessness that we will experience. There is so much going on, but in the shelter of Krishna, we feel we can get this comfort that is there. Thank you very much. Things to say. Does anybody have any comments that they want to make in regard to this? Or questions? Yes.
Thank you for the class. I was listening while I was doing service at the back, so I heard your class. You were mentioning about how Devahuti, the responsibility of the superior, the husband Kadama Muni, is to grant fearlessness to their dependents. So could you speak about the consciousness of someone, because someone may become puffed up that I am the one who is liberating this person, but that's not the case. We see in Bhagavatam and Kadama Muni. So can you talk about the consciousness of the one who is giving Krishna or granting fearlessness?
So you talk about relationships, husband and wife relationship? Anyone who is giving
Krishna consciousness, the mood behind it.
We all have our gunas and karmas, so we come to Krishna consciousness. You don't have to be a pure devotee. This is a wonderful thing here. It's like, was it so anybody can come with your, whoever, whatever walk of life, you can come to this place here and feel the essence of Krishna pervade your soul, and you want to become a devotee. But you still have your guna and your karma. So in the West in particular, that we have been struggling in our different sort of walks of life. Sometimes in India we've come from very, very purified families, but still that material is Kali Yuga, so we have our material inebrities, that, the process of the only quality in Kali Yuga really is truthfulness. All the other qualities are getting washed away. So even if we have some good qualities, it's very easy to become attached to them. So fame, adoration, distinction. So we're bringing all these to Krishna consciousness. So when we get initiated by the spiritual master, technically that we adopted a spiritual process, but fact is that the guna and the karma is there, and particularly that the karma is not actually just like our karma is finished, but it is still there, that we have desires, just like when we're young, we have so many desires. When we're 2 or 3, we don't have any desires till we're like 3 or 4 years old. And when we're 3 or 4, we want this, we want that, we want everything, and we have to be trained up. No, you can't have everything. This is what is there. So when we become teenagers, then also we have another set of circumstances where our, hormones are sort of going wild, and we're trying to bring that all under control, right? And then later on, then when we get married or when we have a relationship, then there's another set of circumstances that happens there. What are the demands of everybody there? And then later on, there's also, the children come along. Okay, we need a house, and then and after that, well, we need a holiday for the kids. I've been working so hard. And so you understand this is going on. So all these desires are coming through. So they're not being just... They're not, just because you surrender to spiritual master, you get that purification, and it's like you're pulling the plug out, but they're still coming, these desires are coming, and the way you conquer the desires is through the process that you've been given by your spiritual master. So even the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada himself, is saying that he's fearful of the material energy because it keeps coming at you, it doesn't stop. So whatever we bring with us has to become purified. So some people have got some people are more puffed up than others, and, other people brought these things. The purification is there, and living in a society, it's easier to become purified. If you're puffed up, then it's very hard to stay puffed up because you're living in a community of devotees that you're sort of more or less brought into line. But all this is coming through. So I just had another point that I was going to make. So we are where we are at this point in time, and it's just a question of following the process. As soon as we stop following the process, then the material energy comes back in again. You plug the fan back in, right? So these material desires are coming and they're going. Oh yeah, okay, so when I was a brahmachari, I went out on Harinam on Sankirtan with Pratapana. Pratapana Pratapana, right? He was like my senior. And we were doing books in some country town. This was going on. I was with him for a few months. And he goes, which side of the street would you like? I go, I'll take the busy side of the street, right? So I'm there all day working. Excuse me, here, I've got this little book on yoga here. Would you like this? And I'm working so hard at it, trying to sell all these books. And Pratapana's over the other side of the road. All I hear this laugh. The ladies laughing. Yeah, see you later, and then half an hour later, So he's having the time of his life, enjoying life, and I'm working, like trying to really be serious. And then at the end of the day, He goes, how much did you make? I go, $140, right? I go, how'd you make? He goes, oh, 350. I go, how did you make that? You know, he said, oh, I surrendered. You just have to surrender to Krishna. I go, okay, I'm surrendering right now. I want to surrender to Krishna. I'm going to surrender. I want to surrender right now to Krishna. He goes, no, it doesn't work that way. You still have to go through the process. So this is how it is, you know, black and white. This is my understanding of it. Hare Krishna. Okay, well, we can finish a little bit early today. Thank you very much. Bhagavatam.